Hello, everyone. Good morning and a warm welcome from the offices of EnMacc. I'm very happy to be back with a special episode of our Digital Trader Summit series. Today, we are not looking into gas markets, power, or digitization. No, we dedicate this hour to a very special but important topic. We look into diversity in general and into the women's job in energy trading and their role. And I'm extremely happy and excited to have four perfect guests with us. So Katrin, Valentina, Veronika, and Lena are joining me for a discussion. We don't have an upfront presentation. And this is where I want to invite everyone to really contribute. We want to make it a bigger discussion. Contribute your questions, please, in the Q&A part of the Zoom function. You see it on the lower part or as well in the chat. I will try to pick these questions up and get them into our discussion and see what our guests have to share in terms of experience, recommendations, or as well giving us a hint where we still have a problem in energy trading. We started the discussion by looking simply in the user base of our platform. So today we have roughly 2,000 users being on EnMacc. And I can say 23% at the moment are women. So that doesn't sound too bad. If you look a little bit deeper into origination versus trading front office itself, or as well risk function analysis and everything, you see a bias there. You see that especially in the front office in real trading, I can say it's very dominant to have as well male traders there. So women have less of a role. And we want to change that and start today with a discussion with our guest. I will let them introduce quickly with themselves. What is their job today, why they got into energy trading, and why this is so great as a woman to be in energy trading. So Valentina, maybe you kick it off. I don't see your video right now, but I hope you hear me and you can contribute. Valentina? We get her back later. Lena, it's your turn.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just disconnected. Yeah, can you hear me?
All right, yes, we hear you. Valentina? Lena.
Okay.
You take Valentina last.
Of course. My name is Lena and I work as an originator in Centrica. I've been working in energy for the past 10 years in various functions, predominantly in the front office. And I feel very passionate about energy because having also worked in different commodities, not just in power, is because for me, this is what the world, or shapes the world, or drives the world. So I find it really interesting. And I feel particularly passionate about what I do now, which is helping with the transition into more renewable energy. So, and I think that's a topic I feel on a personal level very invested in, but then I also can combine it with my interest in the commodity markets, so to speak.
Great. Who's next? Veronika.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Veronika. I work at Gazprom Marketing and Trading in the environmental products team. I've been in the industry now for 11 years. I joined via a master's in energy finance, first with the banking route and then with the corporate world. What I like about my job is, of course, I work in environmental products, so I feel like I'm doing something meaningful and I'm helping to fight climate change and the environment.
Great. Katrin.
Hi, my name is Katrin. I'm working for Engie as a head of origination of the trading company of Engie in BP Germany, so basically for Germany mainly. Why do I love the trading environment? Why do I love energy? I think it's an exciting job we are doing. It has a lot of adrenaline. It is about deal making. It is about communicating with a lot of different parties from trading, from regulation, risk departments, everybody with its own little different characteristics, and that is really making the life as a trader or a front officer so exciting, because you're really in front of a lot of different characteristics in the energy trading world. And on top, and I think I a bit repeat what Lena and Veronika were saying, I'm also more focusing on the renewable side, on the energy transition, and that makes actually the life purposeful.
Very good. Excellent. Great to see you now, Valentina. I have you on screen. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. I have no idea what happened. I just got disconnecting while you were talking, and so I had to try to reconnect. So just to see what did I miss, because I came in when Katrin was talking.
Valentina, you just Valentina,
okay.
Can you hear me? You just transitioned from an origination desk now to the front desk of EnBW.
Yeah.
At the time of COVID, maybe help us introduce yourself and explain us a little bit how that worked.
So I do a brief introduction since I missed that. As you, I think most of you know me already. In any case, I started like my career in Oi, which is now Alfreg in Milan, like 10 years ago. As a junior sales, as a sales, then I moved to Gazprom marketing and trading in London. And I worked there as a commodity marketer for 6 years. So again, it was like a sales role. And I joined the MV team last September. So I joined in the middle of the pandemic, during COVID. Of course, we were all supposed to, to be maybe better, but then we didn't expect, the COVID situation to go on for such a long period of time. So I moved from a sales role, which is a very like relationship role that is, with people. What is important is the relationship established with them, try to establish a long.
Valentina, we don't hear you right now. Sorry. Valentina, I think
Very quick.
I can't hear you at all at the moment. Sorry. Maybe you stop your video and try to come in. Valentina? No, it doesn't work. All right, let's. Valentina, back? No, I think we have to jump and get her back in the discussion later on. Lena, I mean, we know each other as well. Many people know you worked as well for enmacc, another, let's say, company where in the tech area, let's say, women are not so obvious, let's say, or not so well presented, I have to say. So it's not us being better than energy trading, but you have as well a history really in the broker area going long back. Can you tell us a little bit how that felt and what has changed for you over the years?
Sure. I mean, I started my career in London and I started at one of the larger broking companies as an oil broker, actually. And, I still think, I mean, I haven't been really in touch for the past few years, but I generally know, I think from all of the trading, I think broking is always a little bit even more male dominated than the others. I think it's also quite a challenging and can be kind of brutal environment. And I think a lot of women find that very uninteresting because, it really plays to a lot of the cliches that you hear about, and you have to be very tough to move forward and be successful. And but it was a very interesting time and I learned a lot, and it shaped who I am now, I guess, to a certain extent. And so I'm appreciative towards this. Would I like the environment maybe to be a little bit nicer every now and then? Yes, absolutely. I do think it's unnecessary that it is to the extent that it is now, but I think over the years, the more I moved in different roles within energy and to where I am now, I think, yes, the environment have become a little bit more diverse, but still very heavily dominated towards men, essentially. But I'm hoping that this slowly will change. And I think it's also where you look in the energy sort of world and which professions, how many women would be represented or not, if that makes sense. I think trading less, in origination, what I do, I think more. So I think it's a slow kind of transition, I would say.
It seems like women are picking where to go, which functions, and as well which companies. We're not talking about names here, but did you leave broking because of the kind of male culture? Was that a reason to leave it actually for you? Back?
I think, I mean, I worked in it for over 6 years, so I think I've been quite committed towards it. But there were other factors, obviously, for this as well, I think. But yes, I think one of like one of the reasons, not the reason, but definitely one of the reasons was that I just didn't really feel like this is the person I want to be anymore, and this is the environment I want to work in. And I felt like I wanted more of a, I guess you could say, a normal work environment to a certain extent, where it's not just about being eaten alive continuously by other people and having to be the strong one and to shout at people. And I think, but also something more meaningful to a certain extent. And I think there is enough space in energy to move and transition to a job that you feel like your talents or your skills might be valuable and useful to a certain extent. So yeah, that's, I think, what I would say.
And it's not skills or talents which are lacking in a way. I mean, Veronika, you're part as well of trading and origination since years. What do you think can you or are women in general contributing in this job? What makes you strong and a winner in trading?
That's a difficult question to start, yeah. Well, if I wanted to give you the standard answer that probably everyone is expecting, I would say that women are more risk adverse. They probably don't just do trades for the fun of it. They probably are better at managing losses so that they don't chase after unprofitable trades. But ultimately, I think being a woman is only one marker of somebody's identity, and it should not be the defining factor and strength of what I can bring to a team. If you want to have like strong creative teams, you need to have like a viewpoint diversity, which to me is the basis of inclusion, and that can come in many different ways, not just by being female or having people from diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, one topic which is still, have to say, very much attached is to women is the role of being a mother as well, having a second job next to your trader job. How do you see that? How do you manage that?
Well, I have 2 children and I only work 80%. I have done so since I returned to work after my first maternity leave. This works for me in the sense that I wouldn't really want to work full-time while I have smaller children, but it's my personal choice, and I've been very lucky that my company enabled me to adapt this working approach.
So it works for you?
Yes, it works for me.
Great. Katrin, you're as well, mother as well, but you're as well the only, let's say, leadership role here really in this round now. If you look on the role of female leaders in the company, elevating a little bit the role of traders as well, how do you look at that at the moment?
I mean, in the end, if there are less women in a company or in the sector, you also automatically have less leaders. So that is already the start. And I think the whole problem is actually already starting by educating everybody's daughters in order to push them more on being basically daring and not necessarily being beautiful. I think this is already starting a lot earlier than actually where we are standing today, and that we should not forget. I mean, in the end, once you have started in the energy sector, I think you made already a good step in being daring, in being actually wanting to be someone and not trying to be beautiful and basically careful, because that is already the start. And I see this already with my little daughter, that at school there is some stereotyping. Nobody can really deny this, and it's very, very tough also as a parent to fight against this. But okay, so that is maybe as a first point. As a second point, why are there so few female leaders? I really think whenever you're hiring somebody and you're pushing somebody, you always prefer to push somebody that is similar to yourself. So therefore, it is less of a negative point to our male colleagues, because I think it's also a natural way of thinking. So if you want to change this as a company, I think there needs to be a push, and there needs to be a management decision and a mindset changing. If this is not there, I think there is no chance that there will be a lot more female leaders in the energy world. I'm quite convinced. So it's more a management change. It is a management style change, going away from more the hierarchical and more into the empowerment, in which I think women feel a lot better and more daring than in the old management style.
Yeah. Let me have one question there, maybe a tricky one, but I hear sometimes that it's as well the role of female leaders to promote specifically other women to make a kind of a progress. How do you take this role on? Is this where you see it's your job to promote specifically women, or how do you manage diversity?
But in the end, I mean, it's about equality, and therefore, I mean, it's tough. It's a very tough question. I was asking myself this exact question, whether I actually will be more biased towards women in the hiring process, or whether actually I will try to keep the equality in one way or the other. And I will more say it's about diversity in a team. I'm quite convinced that a team is at its best if they are working together, and that different characters are actually represented in a team. That basically also means that I do not want to have only white men, but I also do not want to have only women in a team. I think this is just not something I would be feeling positive about. So this is really something we are trying to do also within Engie. I mean, it's really, there are different programs. It's called the Women Up program that we are having within Engie. The management style has been changing. So what I do is really pushing the different women we have in the teams, and especially also the younger ones, to really say, hey, I am someone, and I'm open to a potential career change and basically going up, and I'm not afraid to do so.
Great. I mean, Veronika, getting back to you, you are part of a mostly female team, if I am well informed, no?
Yes, we are 8 people in my team, and 5 of them are women. The head of our team is a woman, which is of course very inspiring, because you know that if she made it to the top, so can you. And 2 of us work 80%.
Yeah. And do you feel that this team is different than other teams at Gazprom? Do you see that as well?
I always had a very good experience with the teams I worked in at Gazprom. Now this is my 3rd team. And generally the culture is very open-minded, and there is a respect for people's personal circumstances. So a lot of my colleagues in the wider team have children, so they can relate to women that want to work, but also want to spend more time with their kids. I never had any issues with my schedule. People have always been very respectful. You very often read about women that, you know, they try to work part-time, but then they have to go back full-time because they have so much work on their day off that it becomes an unpaid working day. But that has not been my experience. I really think there is a new awareness of how work can be organized, and most big companies have very strong team cultures, and we always help each other out. So I think regardless of this specific team or the teams I've worked before, I always had the support that I needed to work part-time. All
right, great. We get here quite some questions in, and I'll try to pick them up already. One, where a few questions are around, let's say, the culture, really, this, let's call it male culture, you find maybe on trading floors as well. Lena, you talked about the brokers. First, I want to bring back as well Valentina in the call. How do you experience in COVID from home the culture in there? And maybe adding another question, which I found excellent here. Are there as well men you think who dislike this kind of culture and environment and are try to leaving that? Do you feel they're as well supported in your perception by male colleagues who say, okay, this is not the environment I prefer to work in?
Is this to me?
First, maybe to Valentina, but happy, Lena, that you join in as well.
First of all, regarding the COVID, since we are all working from home here, still 100%. Of course, like in the trading, what you miss is this testosterone like environment that usually you have on the trading floor when there are jokes and maybe male talks and so on, something that you don't have. So probably working from home made me, I don't know if it's easier, or you don't have to relate with that or try to fill in this kind of jokes because they are not simply happening. We just have, we have just video calls and everything. It's probably on the other side, it's a bit more formal because you just have the chance to talk about, the markets and what is going on and the news. But there is less time for this male, changing room environment when they just see, okay, who is the big trader here, and this kind of attitude of male attitude. So that's for sure. I would say it help. Of course, you miss what is the day-to-day job and the day-to-day relationship with the colleagues. Personally, I don't think that there are some men, or at least I never had the impression that they don't like to have female colleagues. I don't think so. I really never experienced that, and I would not even, to be honest, understand that, because I think like they can meld together, they can be good team player, at least in the trading team. I think that like a smart man should be able to recognize that on the other side, maybe a woman can bring something different to the table, and instead of being just men. So for me, like in the trading role, is not that I don't think that women are risk adverse. I don't think so. Otherwise, I won't be a trader and women cannot be a trader. And I think that all women can be traders. So, but it's just a different way of taking the risk. So, or managing the risk, of managing your position, or taking decision. And this can, in a way, kind of balance what is the team, because, men in a room, they just, fuel up themselves. Sometimes like a bomb that is about to explode. And women, on the opposite, can create a kind of stability and diversity. And that means that is good for a company. It is good for the trading team and the company in the end.
Good. Lena, maybe you said already you wanted to join on that as well, describing, I mean, when we come to we talked about the talents you can add to the team, definitely, but the culture boils down very often to how you collaborate, how you speak, what is the language you use, and this kind of intense, how to say that, intended or non-intended behavior you see. Sometimes it's not that people have kind of bad intentions, but maybe a kind of a bias, or are not simply reflecting on how they communicate and interact. And nothing is more important in the modern marketplace to create an environment where everyone feels being able to contribute and deliver. It's not just women, I'd say, criticizing sometimes these cultural environments, no?
I think it just depends. I think it's of who you are as well as a person and what your expectations are. So I think generally it also is dependent on the company, what the culture they want to create, and the people they hire, in my opinion. Because if they would be more invested or interested, which I think is slowly happening to a certain degree, that people become more aware and are more sensible, and the companies are putting more of an effort into those topics, then this is the environment they will create. And then more and more females, in my opinion, will feel comfortable or considering this or want to be part of it. And as Valentina rightly said, I think, for example, I'm the only woman in my team, to be fair, as in on specifically what I do. I mean, we have a lot of females working for my company, but I think it's because also the cultural thing. We're like a Danish company, and there's just a lot of kind of equality that happens there anyway. But I think, if you look at specifically on the broking side, what I used to do a lot, I think there people just hired people who were like themselves. So there was no interest in changing the culture. Yep. They wanted people who were like them. And then obviously when you're a woman like I was obviously stuck out a lot. And then, but I had people, and I have to say this, I had male managers who wanted me to be there. So they put me there and they supported me through that process. And I think you can argue now, this is a good thing or a bad thing, but this is a reality to a certain extent as well. And I think you just have to accept that. So I think it really just depends on the person and what environment and what they're looking for. So I think if you look at the trading space or the energy trading space in specific or in particular, and if you look at the teams that are more diverse or you know, more heavily white male dominated, then I think it just depends on, you can see the hiring policy to a certain extent. And I think it's not because there's, I mean, yes, there's probably less women applying for certain roles as well, but then you should ask yourself, I read one of the questions, that how can you attract more women to be in this business? And I think you should really ask yourself all the way through the value chain of hiring someone, maybe it's the way you're presenting the role and maybe the audience you're targeting. So maybe you should start changing that, because then I think you would have more females applying. So I think it's a complex process, you see?
This is where we get quite some questions. I mean, as you said, get the culture first right, get rid of the biases. But Katrin, we discussed that before. You had some quite specific as well experiences there to share. Or how do you deal with that as a manager to take? I'm sure you want to hire female talent. How do you do that?
I mean, I mean, now I'm in that. What is interesting, maybe also that I changed from trading to origination. Not that particularly I wanted to leave trading, but simply to change the perspectives. But maybe what is interesting in the past, and it's a bit longer ago, is that we did an exercise of writing down job descriptions, and we split the writing parts in man and female. And I think it's almost 10 years ago, to be very honest. But I think it was very interesting what came out, because the job description for the trading role that was going out was completely different. The male was very focused on the hard facts, whereas the female job description, where I was part of, was more focusing on attitude, team, working together. I mean, I think the P&L aspect was more or less the same, but actually to get to the P&L aspect, how do you get actually in order to make money, because in the end it's a trading role, right, was different. Whereas the one was really hard facts, the other one was really more on the attitude, teamwork, it needs to fit in a team, the male part. And there, I think it's already showing that the way you're writing your job description could already have an impact on whom you're attracting to a trading role. But on the other side, then you, as a company, you need to ask yourself, whom do you actually want to have? And if you want to attract your more female employees, I think you need to adapt in one way or the other. On the other side, I also think that women need to adapt and need to be a bit more daring and just jump instead of wait.
Do you think as well that many women are not attracted by these roles, or don't try or don't look behind basically what is the job description?
Very often when and this I think it's also regarding the ceiling, right? The glass ceiling. It is about jumping and saying I'm trying. And I think a lot of women, and I think very long it was the case for myself as well, was simply waiting until the perfect job description is going to come to you. Yeah. I think men have a different and I know it's stereotyping, but men in general, I think, have a different attitude and just say, maybe 1/3 is fitting on the job description. I will just try, you know. I mean, who cares? I cannot lose anything. Whereas me, and maybe not talking about women in general, me, I was more waiting about the job description also in order to move up in the career ladder that is actually fitting, so that I have 100% chance of getting the job, which obviously is not working. You need to just say yes, and if you do not do this, it's not going to happen.
Allow me to continue a little bit with the stereotypes. I mean, if I look today on job descriptions for trader roles, there are many more quantitative skills. This is all demanded there. So we talk, I have the feeling a little bit less and less about these kind of more personal attributes and strength. Is that as well your perception? Is that making it even harder that these kind of quantitative skills, or how to say that, analytic skills, are becoming more and more important and are sought in the market?
But this is again, I mean, this is again regarding university studies. The more female you have in the university studies regarding technical subjects, the more you will get also into the trading roles that are demanded. And indeed, trading, the role description of a trader, I think in the last 10 years definitely has changed. And it has become a lot more quantitative than in the past. But then you really need to see also what is coming out of the university.
Yeah.
And there, I think it's very depending from which country you're coming.
To continue that, you see there differences between?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I've been working in different countries: Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, and a bit in Scandinavia. So I do see quite big differences. I think in Germany you have a lot less quantitative girls that are coming out of university than, for example, in France, even though I think also even there, but also in Belgium, there are a lot more females that are going more to engineering studies than actually, for example, in Germany. I think Germany is a bit behind on this, to be very honest.
Well, hope everyone hears that. No, but looking, we have one question here, Veronika, as well in your direction. I mentioned your team is you have quite some female share. The question was more, is that by accident? Probably not, but how does your team really attract female talent, and how do you attract them, motivate them to join you?
Personally, I think it's just a coincidence that the core team I work in has a lot of women. The team that Valentina and I worked together at Gazprom, we were only women. Our manager not, but he was a big supporter of females in the workforce. I think ultimately the question of how you attract talent also really depends on the level at which you look to hire somebody. When, for example, companies look to have the graduate program, or they look at students' entry-level jobs, then I think it's much easier to attract a wider pool of people, because people fresh out of university, very often they don't really know what the roles entail. So they may just apply for something based on what they think could be a commercial role. And then it's really down to the organizations to organize maybe rotations, so that people see different things, and then they actually understand what the strong suits are, the skills are, and how they better fit into an organization. But when you talk about more experienced professionals, I've been in the industry now for more than 10 years. I think it's very difficult to just talk about attracting females versus attracting males, because we all have our background now, our set of skill set, experiences, which are going to define what we can bring to a company more than simply being female versus being male.
Absolutely. We get quite some questions as well, or I mentioned having two jobs, not weighing that, which one is more important, being mother, father, or trader in the way. Is there anything where you can share as well what are best practices out there? We've heard part-time jobs or other things. Are there kind of best practices you can share what really worked for you?
I think personally the most difficult challenge is always to find good childcare in London. That's always something which is not easy. I'm now at my fourth nanny, unfortunately, so there's a big change in the care of the children. But ultimately, as I was saying before, there is a new awareness in the workforce of how you can organize work. So, for example, I have the Wednesday off, and my colleague who works 80%, she works every day, but she finishes at 3. So there are very many things that companies can try to make it work. The important thing for me, and this is the message that I want to give to women in the workplace, is really that if you want something, you have to ask for it, because it doesn't matter if it's not been done before, if nobody else around you works part-time, or nobody takes 1 year maternity leave, or starts a job pregnant, for example. If it's something that you want, it's up to you to open the discussion, have the conversation, and you will be surprised how accommodating people and companies can be once the question has been asked. So I think there's no one fit-all answer.
So overall, we get the message that many companies are trying to take that seriously and really want to promote women. Katrin, you mentioned Engie having a program there. I think we may find that as well in many other companies. There is as well kind of what we hear in questions, and I heard before, is a little bit the marketing aspect. Yeah. So is it sometimes more of a top-down program, or you feel that there is really this? Someone wrote here, I think in the questions, feminization of the industry. Yeah. So is this really now getting a bigger wave where people really believe in, or is it more marketing? Where do we stand in this process right now? Someone?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
I think personally, it's like marketing in terms that, like, I don't know, women tend not to market themselves internally so much. So they are expecting for someone to notice them, or they think that like they already knows the quality and their skills. And men tends on the opposite to probably show something even more compared to what they really are doing, whatever. They really tend to marketing themselves internally. And so that tends also to be, you know, easier when you have to think about maybe a candidate, to think about that person instead of someone else. So for me, like internally in the company to grow is not just that women has to support women, but also men has to support women in that sense. So it's very important internally, the networking, or the having a mentor, having a sponsor, let's call it, I want to call it. And usually like men tend to mentor other men. And there are not so many men that tend to mentor women. And most of the leadership position right now are men. Mm-hmm. So that has to change. I mean, they have to understand, or the company has to understand that also these men that are on a leadership position have to support women. So it's a kind of bit of both. Women have to try more, to put themselves on the table, to show what they can do, so to market themselves internally and externally. Like for me, it was a big step to just do this webinar, because I'm not really used to do that. Yeah. And I think like also for me, for my professional career, it's kind of important to get on the social media and just say, you know what, I'm talking to this webinar. Yeah. It was a great honor for me to be asked to do that. But also internally, I said, like, as Katrin said, sometimes you see a job position and you're like, okay, that does not fit me 100%. I'm not going to apply. And it is something that you have to kind of force yourself to do it. You have to force yourself to talk. You have to force yourself to express an opinion. This is very valid for me too, because it does not come as natural. Mm-hmm. But I think having like a mentor, which sometimes is not easy for men, because maybe, I don't know, they just feel it's easier to get along with another man. You know, sometimes there might be gossip in the company because it's always a man and a woman meeting and talking, and it's not easy. For sure, it's not easy, but you have to try. Because
you just said the role of men of really mentoring, and Lena mentioned that as well. If they are men who make that as well part of their, well, they really believe in it and they put it into action, supporting women, I think this shows some effect here. Talking or switching on the other side, does someone of you have role models, and do they tend to be more male or female role models? Who's your guiding star there? Katrin, did you have or a role model where you say
no?
You don't need it, or you're not. That's not your way of growing.
I never really had a role model within energy or energy trading. But maybe it's also more my characteristic. I was coming to energy trading more by chance, and then I was growing step by step into the job I was doing, and I indeed no, I never had a role model.
But Lena, I think you wanted to jump in as well.
I mean, actually, I never had a role model per se as well, in the sense that I did. The thing is, again, I had this ambition, like, and I fell into energy more as well, but I had this ambition and I never tried to limit myself. And I don't have the most traditional background anyway, because I didn't go to university, for example. So so where I am now, I've achieved through talent, work, and my ambition, I think. And I think what I can see though now is that I have a lot of actually younger women reaching out to me sometimes on LinkedIn or even within my own company who are graduates, for example, and they see me in a front office position, and I'm a female, and they reach out to me, and I have now started to notice that people are looking up to me to a certain extent and ask me a lot of questions of how they can navigate through this kind of very male-dominated world. And I kind of really like this, actually. This is why I'm also really grateful to speak at this panel, because this is a topic I feel extremely passionate about, having worked as long as. And to be fair though, I do think, like, for example, when I met Katrin a few years ago, actually, I always found like her very inspiring, and Veronika and Valentina, because I know all of those wonderful women for many years of my life now. And but I always found it, just any woman I really meet who's successful in their own right, I generally find, you know, worth admiring for to be where they are, because I recognize how hard it was for me to be where I am. So I think I like to acknowledge that. And I generally think it's important for women to support women as well, and not just in the cliche way, but I think to acknowledge everyone's position within. And I think if men would maybe have that perception as well, to recognize sometimes just, you know, and not take things for granted all the time. And luckily I was in a position that I had a few key men in key positions who were supporting me. So I think if you have more like that, I think you would have more women to a certain extent as well. But I think one thing is that it's important though, you do have to kind of want it, because the industry is not going to change from 0 to 100. That's just unrealistic. You do have to have a certain tenacity and grip to make it work and to want it. And I think once you're established, it's easier, because people will.
You said the industry is not changing, but there is something.
It's changing a little bit, but it's not going to change from a 0 to 100. You know, that's
what is changing overall. I mean, we are moving to renewable technologies now, yeah? And this brings in new tech. It brings in new customers, clients, new players. I think as well a new generation of young talent, male or female, and it seems to attract as well more women, because obviously when we look at this round, most of you deal with renewables in some way, or have done in the past. And is this kind of search for more purpose something where the energy industry has to bring more to the table, can deliver more, can be more attractive as well to female talent in the future?
Just speaking from my position, I'd say, yes, I'm sure that will play into it, because it is more of a topic that people feel passionate about or interested in. And I think beforehand, it just had this very kind of trading Wolf of Wall Street feel to it that wasn't very appealing. But again, I think it just really depends on your interests and what you're looking for, and if you have anyone to look forward to. But that's just my opinion on this. So
maybe Katrin, you've been in carbon trading before, as well, environmentally focused, no, and motivated in getting.
Maybe it's that. And I don't know. I don't know whether that is generally for all the women, but definitely for myself, trading alone and only looking at the P&L was not enough. Making money, which is important and what is driving myself, and at the same time having a purpose and trying to change the world a bit ideologically, yes, definitely. The carbon market is certainly a good example, because it was an upcoming market some years ago. It was a very young crowd. It was also a quite female crowd, not, I would almost say 50-50. It was really, really different to the gas and power crowd I was used to before. And you see this also partly, even though it is more technology driven and especially more engineering driven on the renewable side, but you do see this on the renewable side a bit as well. So you do see more women in the renewable side than, for example, in gas trading and gas origination, except for Valentina, of course.
Valentina doesn't feel bad being in gas trading.
I'm the bad girl in trading gas.
But would you still subscribe to that this kind of more purpose-driven way of looking for jobs or for opportunities in personal development? Is that something more female, or does that lead to a nice fit between the energy industry and female talent?
Well, I think it can attract women for sure. So I moved from Gazprom to EnBW, which is not really a gas trading company. It's more, it's a power utilities, but they are investing a lot in green energy, in e-mobility, and so on. So my background is gas. So of course I moved and I'm still trading with gas. But when I moved, once I decided to move, I was also thinking, maybe in the future there might be more chances to do something on the renewables, on the green side. Of course, not right now, but who knows? I like the fact that they are investing a lot in to be more green, to become carbon neutral, and so on. It's like it kind of takes proud to work in such a company compared to maybe a company that does nothing for the environment or does not care. So, okay, I'm still on the bad side of things, but I might change, or, the company is not that bad in the end.
It isn't. No, not at all. Great. It's a moment where I have to thank as well the audience. We had enormous number of questions, which I cannot, I'm simply not able to put all these questions through now, but there is another theme in there, and we have prepared that in this way. But maybe as a closing round already, is there some advice you can share? Some small things, bigger things, where you say, hey, that worked for me, or I've seen that around work that worked in creating a career, being happy in the job. I think there are quite some questions which are a little bit fishing for these kind of ideas. Is there something you may be able to share in kind of a final round here? I know we haven't prepared that, so I'm putting you on the spot here. But
I'm just going to start with this one. I think what I like to say a lot is, as I said before, you really have to want it on one hand, but you should have your own understanding of what you're looking for. And if you feel like, for example, you are mistreated or you're not getting the same amount of respect that you deserve for the position that you're in, you should speak up and you should say something. And I think that's something because women have a tendency not to do that. Yeah. And I think it's really important that, you value who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, and particularly as a woman. And, if you don't want to speak up in front of everyone, do it differently. But, invest in yourself in the sense that, you are where you are and you want to be there, so I think it's important to recognize that and to ask for this as well.
Great. Someone else who wants to?
Yeah, it's indeed, it was not prepared, and it's difficult because I probably thinking about it 5 minutes, I would have hundreds of things to mention, but I would like to mention.
The first ones are always the best, no?
I would like to mention two, and I think the one of Lena was already important. Let perfectionism go, especially when you're a mom. You will not be able to do the perfect job in between. Just accept that things go wrong at work, things go wrong at home, things go wrong with your hobbies. It doesn't mean you're a bad mom. It doesn't mean you're a bad worker. It doesn't mean that you're a bad friend. I think try to find your middle ground. And if you have to leave once in a while at 4:30 because you have to pick up your kid, it doesn't matter. If you need to leave your kids a alone with a nanny once in a while, it doesn't matter. But that's my personal opinion. I mean, in the end, everybody needs to find its own battleground. But what is also important, especially when you think about what is important in your job in order to make it happen and to make the next career move, networking is part of your job. Mm-hmm. It is part of your job. It does not. It is important to know people in your company, to talk to them. And I know that coffee breaks were not there the last year, but actually having a coffee break, a lot of decisions are taken at coffee breaks, usually not at official meetings. And you create this movement in those coffee breaks and after work drinks, even though after work drinks, sometimes as a parent, and I don't want to really say as a mom, but as a parent, it's not that easy. But once in a while, try to get yourself available for those after work drinks, because this is what I have the feeling a lot of times. You ask a lot of times, you say a lot of times, no, I don't have time, I need to go. Mm-hmm. Just make yourself available here and there. You don't have to go with them all the time, but sometimes, yes.
That's good advice. Veronika, Valentina?
I personally agree with both Lena and Katrin. So speak up, don't be shy to ask. If you see you are not like paid the same as men, or you need to do that or that, just ask. Don't be shy to express an opinion, to express your view, to express your thinking, because sometimes something that nobody has thought about, or that can continue the discussion and so on. And I also, I 100% agree with Katrin. Find a partner that is a partner. For me, that's what is like working. You have to understand that as a mother or as like a female, you can have it all, but that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You need at least what is working in my personal household is that like you have to share the parental responsibility. You cannot be a mother 100%. You cannot be a worker 100%. You can't do that because it's absolutely possible. Mm-hmm. So it's still again not just women support women, but men in the company and at home have to support the women.
Good message. Yeah. Valentina, same. I guess you agree to that, but something to add from your perspective?
From my perspective,
yeah, recommendations or advice you could share?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, of course. I would maybe just like to add that we all spend so much time at work. So it's really important for me that we are happy at work and we work with people that we get along. The social element of the office is very important, and of the working life. I would always encourage people to try different things until they find the real perfect fit for them. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great, thanks a lot. Yeah, time was flying by, passed really quickly here. It was a great pleasure to have you here as my guests today, all of you. Thanks a lot. And I think you are very inspiring, all of you, to our audience. We have to highlight that a quarter of the audience was actually male today. So big thank you to the male participants as well. I am entitled to say that. No, I think it's great.
I think this call was more for the men, actually, for the women, because as women, I think more or less we are sharing the same, experience, the same, concerns. This was more for me, for the men, to reach men.
Let's hope that everyone takes something out of the discussion. I think it's really inspiring, and I actually would love to even repeat that in a certain time, that we say, okay, what has changed in between? Have we talked about something? Are we here starting a movement, a development which is going in the right direction? So I think it's let's see that more as a starting discussion. I know that there are quite specific questions which we maybe not be addressing in such a call here. I said as well, there was a question, some questions, can we answer these as well afterwards? I cannot guarantee it, but I'm happy to share it with my guests today. So you may pick that up and maybe go into a bilateral discussion as well, or answering something. I would love to see that. I think that's great because it shows that it's a very personal topic to many. different from other topics we're discussing here very often. So let's create a little bit of a platform here and following up.
Yes, sorry,
yes.
If I can just add, I wanted to address the questions that have not been answered. So if anybody has specific questions to me, they can email me and I will try to get back to all of them. So
yeah. Same here.
That, like if we have the platform and we can share some advice or views,
yeah.
that we help.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, thanks for the contribution and the follow-up. Very happy, very grateful. Hope to see you all soon. And yeah, hopefully in the next Digital Trader Summit we're organizing at EnMacc. Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh.